Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Masters of Marketing. Today, I'm super excited to have somebody on that we are going to be speaking a lot about mental health with, which is going to be super interesting, and also how marketing and mental health work together, which is going to be an interesting track for us to take. I've got Lukas van Remmerden, and Lukas, I'm not sure if I completely butchered your name there, but van Remmerden, is that correct? Is that the right way of
Yeah,
saying your
the
first name?
second approach was perfect actually.
Van Remmerden, are you German or Dutch?
German, but the name is Dutch, so
Okay.
both are correct in that way.
Got it. Okay, look at that. So I'm guessing all the way. So just a bit of a background on Lukas. So Lukas is currently works in partner marketing at Personio, and he also is working on another project which is called Fourtees. Fourtees is a fashion initiative that generates money from male mental health charities, and was also a finalist as Startup of the Year of Sweden. Lukas is passionate about all things marketing, partnerships, SEO, events, growth, startups, scale ups, branding, personal branding, brand building, podcasts, and music, and is a great advocate for mental health. So, really excited to have you on, Lukas. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about what your current role is at Personio. So, first of all, tell us about Personio. I know Personio, but maybe the audience doesn't. So, tell us first about Personio, and secondly, what you do there.
Right. So Personio is a German company. It's an HR platform. So essentially one of those all-in-one HR platforms for in which HR teams can do essentially anything that they need to do and then can focus on the things that actually really matter, which is the people. And I'm their partnership marketing manager. So I have my own little island of partnership marketing, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
really fun. So I work with kind of both existing partners that we have in the space of, let's say, HR consultancies, software partners that we have, tax advisor partners in Germany or in the DACH region, but also non-existing or not yet existing partners for us, um, and look a bit into what can I do with them on a marketing end of things. So that could be events together, webinars together, campaigns together, to yeah, at the end of the day, create value for the in the best case shared audience that we have.
Sure, makes perfect sense. I mean, I think the it's a real growth driver if you can actually unlock it, that partner marketing piece. And also, a lot of times, a lot of bigger companies, like let's take Personio as an example, would have a marketing development fund, which partners can then, or whatever technology partners or whatever it might be, will be able to tap into, which will then help get more traction for them with less spend on their side, right? So I see this as well from a smaller company's perspective. It makes like amazing sense to go and try to partner with the bigger players in the space, or like not
Right.
if they're competitors, obviously, but if they're complementary to what you have
Yeah.
to offer,
Building
then you can.
extensions, etc.
Exactly, and I do this with a couple of different companies that I work with. Work with one specific company that's an agency that implements technologies for e-commerce providers, and that specific company, what we've done now is we've managed to save a ton of marketing dollars, but got a huge amount more traction this year by working together with technology vendors that have an MDF, a marketing development fund, and they're hosting us at events. They're doing joint case studies with us. They're doing webinars with us. They're doing content, other blog posts, whatever it might be. They're doing joint social posts with us, and all of these different things are just we're hitching our trailer onto
Right.
onto the partner that's got the bigger audience, and they're helping us gain more traction. But at the same time, we're also doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to content
Exactly.
creation,
Yeah.
etc., which then provides them with more content to push out into the market, right? So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And also when it comes to, for example, going into new markets as well. So you might go with a partner who, in our case, let's say, is bigger in the UK than we are, but we are bigger in
Mm.
Germany than they are, and then we can kind of barter that one out as well. Yeah, I
Mm.
think, like you said, it's a fantastic kind of yeah playground almost, and I think it's really about, like you said, about unlocking it, which I think is a really difficult challenge. I don't, I'm not going to say that we're there yet, but we're very much on a fun road ahead, I would say.
I tell you where you start. People often think this is going to be very difficult. You start by just reaching out to those people or those companies that you want to partner with and try to build a relationship. The partnership thing is a relationship build,
Yes.
typically, right? And then it's about going out and meeting those partners, having a marketing plan that you can present to those partners, and showing where they can fit into that. That's my experience with it. I've done it firsthand in the past 12 months. And every time that I've done it that way, it's worked. Is there any tips that you would give, like based on what your experience is now?
Maybe not tips, but I think I definitely would add on to kind of confirm that I think a lot of people are more open to doing things together than you think they are. So really just reaching out, and people in the end always have some form of maybe project there where you can add some value for them. Even if there's just, like a small little, I don't know, webinar, and you do a little guest
Yeah.
contribution, or you write a guest blog, or whatever that might be, even these small little things. Um, yeah, so I think people are, in the end, they're always willing to, get some extra experts into the mix, for sure.
I think that's the case across the board generally.
Mm,
I'm a big fan of if you don't ask, you don't receive.
right,
And I am always surprised at what you can get if you ask for it. Seriously, I'm shocked a lot of the times. Like, I mean, so people often ask, "Oh, we don't know, we don't have a good enough network to start a podcast," for example.
right,
I was like, "Well, what do you mean by a good enough network?" Well, I don't have the right people that are going to be big enough names to drive listeners, whatever. I was like, "Well, have you gone and maybe tried asking the people that you maybe want to have on
right,
if they
yeah,
would be interested in talking to you?" No, I couldn't do that. I don't know them.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, so what? Like, just we've got like nowadays it's so easy to get in touch with so many
yeah,
people. You can
100%.
use a variety of channels from Instagram to LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
And
and
you'd
worst
be
case, you get a no, and you just continue anyways, right?
worst case you get no answer, right? But then yeah,
Yeah,
but even if I would say a no is a good. So I call a no a future yes,
right,
because you can work with a
nice.
no. You can work with it. You can turn a no into a yes, right? But that's interesting. So tell me a little bit about the project that you're working on, Fourtees. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so that's a little side project that I'm running with two friends of mine. So because I've always been very much kind of passionate about the whole mental health space. I've worked at a different company before called OpenUp, which is also focusing on providing mental health solutions for people. So it's always been very much kind of at the core of what I've been doing. And I wanted to do kind of more than just the job part of it. So I had a phone call with a friend of mine about when AI started, or what we now see as what we now buzzword call AI, when all that started, and we spoke about how we've been starting to use it at work back then with the start of the hype of ChatGPT, etc., and how we found it both kind of terrifying as well as we found it exciting. So we thought, okay, how can we use it for something nice? And in our case, use it for something good, like generating money for mental health charities, especially male mental health charities as well. So we said, okay, let's just ask ChatGPT and just follow it if it's as long as it's a passive, not so time-consuming thing. And it gave us these ideas of essentially starting a clothing brand, which is kind of smaller, or like more subliminal messaging to kind of be empathetic, be open, and to kind of show your vulnerabilities at the end of the day. And then we just followed the the steps just as a form of, yeah, really just kind of trial and error. Let's just see what happens. And then we just had so much fun along the way that a month later, we had a supplier, we had designs, we had a kind of very scrappy website that we put together, and then we launched it. And it's been a kind of fun year since.
And tell me, is it going the direction that you wanted to go? Are you managing to achieve what you want to achieve with it? Like, what was your vision with it? Are you managing to reach it? Tell me a bit more about it.
Yeah, so I think especially in the beginning, it was that was the most fun because it went from this conversation into an actual kind of existing project, right? Into an actual initiative with kind of product that you can actually feel and kind of see on people, and people started posting about it. And I think a week after we launched, we already kind of got back all the money that we put in um, as our kind of initial cost of creating the business. A week later, everything was being back in again. So then we could focus on, okay, everything from now on that comes in, uh, it's going to end up going to charity or going just into fun ads that we can now play around with without having risking our own kind of capital with it. Um, so especially I think the launch period was a lot of fun, and then also really looking into, I guess, the first kind of half year um, as to how can we actually scale it a little more while not really having the time. How can we start playing around with different ads and different channels and look at micro influencers from that space and really just kind of branch out. Um, in the last half year, we get a bit more busy on the personal end of things. So since then, it's been a bit more of a backlog kind of Sunday evening kind of project, which is a bit of a
Mm.
shame. I hope we can get back into that eventually. And it's interesting because you can see the impact of that immediately as well, right? So in weeks where we have, paid Instagram ads going and micro influencers posting about it and, us making some noise in communities, then you can really see the sales going kind of in that direction as well. You can almost calculate a bit with it. And really, as soon as we drop those for a week, then of course the traffic and the sales they plummet equally. So it's been a bit of a backlog project the last few months,
Mm.
but it's definitely still a very kind of close to our heart kind of passion project for us.
Interesting. So these micro influencers, like in order to work with those guys, I guess you need to be doing outreach into them, right? You're
Yes,
essentially doing like a sales role almost.
yeah, exactly. But the fun part is it's such a nice kind of mission and such a nice topic that so many people are so open to it. Again, more open than you think they are. A lot of people were posting things for free just because they thought, okay, it's actually a cool mission. You guys are doing something that's not about making profits or anything like that. So yeah, again, a lot of people were just excited to kind of share, I guess, the mission that we were trying to build with it.
Oh, that's amazing, man. Like, and what is like the next steps for you guys on that project?
Yeah, we'll see. We have another friend of ours who now joined it, who has a bit more of a businessy kind of background. So hopefully we'll get back into finding more time for it, building the actual kind of brand around it, and just kind of giving it more of a structure again, I would say.
Excellent, excellent, cool stuff, man. Well, that sounds really interesting. Do you think just on the mental health side of things, um, what made you get into it yourself? Like, was there a personal story behind that? Was it just something that you were very interested in? Like you mentioned before that you were with another company that focused on mental health as well.
Right.
How did you manage to get involved in that?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I lived in Sweden with that other friend of mine as well. We both of us we went back to university after having worked for some time. Um, and then we were also living together, and then we had so many conversations about insecurities that we had, kind of vulnerabilities about ourselves, our journeys, our careers, whatever it might have been. um, and we both kind of found out that first of all it's surprisingly difficult, especially as a man, to have these conversations and to be actually vulnerable and to open up towards one another. um, and then B, also kind of embrace the actual positive outcome that comes from it. So it felt so helpful, so relieving, so rewarding for us to either share or to listen what the other one had to say. Um, that it almost became almost addicting or addictive to do so, especially with the male friend group that we had at that time. To be like, hey, we all need to kind of do a bit better. We all need to um, be more open towards one another and actually share things that aren't always fun to share. So it became, from that moment, it kind of became a very close, um, just very close kind of topic to my heart. Um, so I also then took it into the job that I then did, because I wanted to specifically work with this topic, and then found a company called OpenUp. It's an Amsterdam-based startup, um, and they are a B2B startup, and they're providing um, psychological sessions, so conversations, to companies and the employees that work there. And I was hired as the second German marketer. So really more as a experiment, I think, because it was a very Dutch market heavy kind of company. But luckily that experiment went well. So when I joined, we were, I believe, maybe 20 people in the company. It was very pre-funding, somewhat early stage. And then 2 years later, by the time that I left, I believe we were 100 plus people. There was 15 million in funding. It became LinkedIn Startup of the Year in 2023. And we were able to build an actual team around also the German side of marketing, which was a really, really fun journey and very much, I think, fast forwarded my personal growth as well with it.
That's amazing, man. I think we're seeing more and more of that open up as well with those online services like BetterHelp as well.
Absolutely.
I guess open up is a competitor to BetterHelp, probably, right?
Yes, exactly.
Similar.
I think BetterHelp is probably doing more B2C things, I believe.
Yes,
So
yes,
more for
exactly. B2C,
individuals.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but now there are a lot of companies kind of popping up in that space, which I think it's almost like a luxury problem to have competition in the space, because I personally
Mm,
always thought at the end of the day, I just want people to use some service as a company. I don't really care if it was us, if it was
mm.
someone else, as long as people had access to kind of the help that they need and deserve.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, when you were advertising into the German market, when you were approaching the German market, I know the German market relatively well. I'm based in Austria, so Austrian German market's quite similar, not the same. Austrians will shoot me for saying that if they're the same, and Germans maybe so as well. But Austrian German market's very similar, right? And I think when it comes to mental health, I think the stigma is probably 10 years behind where it probably should be in comparison to other more forward thinking markets like the UK or the US, or I'm Irish. Irish market's pretty far advanced now at this point, but for a long time been living in the dark ages as well. Right. How did you, what were some of the struggles that you guys came across while trying to launch a business like that into the German market?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're completely correct, very much on the money.
Yeah.
I would agree that the German and Austrian markets are somewhat similar.
Don't
Maybe
say too
less
loud
so.
around the
Yeah,
Austrians. Don't say too loud around
of
the
course,
Austrians.
of course. At least more so than the German and Swiss market. There's a lot more
Yeah.
differences there. Um, so what we also saw a lot is that, yeah, the stigma was just such a different experience than it was, for example, in the Netherlands, where our core market was, where most of our colleagues were working on. So then, when we would kind of pitch our solution to someone in the Netherlands, what we would do is really focus more on the actual product features. What are the differentiators towards the other companies that are out there, and then just things like pricing. Whereas in Germany, you would have to start the conversation essentially years before when it comes to the content. So then it was really about why is this even important? Why should you even have this in the first place? You know what I mean?
Mm, mm,
Whereas in the Netherlands, you didn't need to kind of set this premise. This was already a very understood kind of topic. Yeah, and sometimes it even went as far as getting like getting backlash from some people you were trying to do outreach to, or people saying, "Oh, we wouldn't need something like this. Everyone's healthy here," you know.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, this maybe this is not always the case, or maybe even if you're quote unquote healthy, you might still want to have someone to speak with as a
Mm,
professional. That's a different
mm,
conversation, right?
mm,
Um,
mm.
so really starting those conversations, especially 4 or 5 years ago, was a very, very, very different playing field already than it is now, and a very different playing field compared to some other countries. I mean, in the UK, there's some other big players as well, Olive, I believe, Spill Health, etc., who are doing fantastic work. And you could just really see that the 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 taboo around it was a lot bigger in Germany.
Yeah, I think it's funny it's coming around very quickly though. I think the thing that's really put it into fast forward mode is COVID, or was
Yes,
COVID. It really put a spotlight on how fragile mental health can be. And all that was required was to lock up people in their homes for for the guts of 2 years and
that's
tell
all
them
it
that they
took.
can't leave. That is as simple as that. But not no. But I think it's really shed a light on that, because it was before that it was sort of close your eyes and put your fingers in your ears, and like the very, if somebody said they were depressed, you get the question, why are you depressed? You've got nothing to be depressed about.
Right,
You've got everything,
100%.
like so I fully agree with that. And I even the Austrian German markets, a lot has changed in the past couple of years. I think not even just in mental health, but I also think internationalization. I
Yeah.
think the use of English, for example,
Hmm.
on a day-to-day level. I think the new generation that have come through university now have made a big, maybe in the university in the past maybe 3 to 5 years, have made a massive impact in terms of how modern the society has become, because Austria in particular is a very traditional society,
Hmm.
you know. And I've been living here for 16 years, so I've observed a thing or two in that time, right? And I would say, like, there used to be a saying when I first moved here, is if the world ends tomorrow, I'll move to Vienna, because it's going to happen 12 years after everywhere else. You know,
Beautiful.
so
Right.
you know, very traditional, very, very traditional. But actually, that has changed in the past, maybe
Mm.
5-6 years, something like that. And I think it's to do, one, with COVID, but second of all with the newer generation of people that are more open minded to these things,
Yeah.
that that have grown up in a way where they're more open to talking about problems that they might have, that are more open, that are seeing things like open up,
Right.
etc., right? Better help, that are getting these like services provided to by businesses, by their business, right? And also, I think for the I think mental health has become a hot topic, and I think a lot of brands and consumer brands in particular are jumping on that. Now,
Mm.
whether or not that's for the right reason is questionable, but at the same time, it's having a positive knock-on effect,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So
So,
so so yeah. Maybe towards your first point from earlier as well. It's like you really see kind of the, I guess, almost kind of political or news landscape really represented in the struggles that people have as well. So when the whole uh, Ukraine war started as well, then you started to see a lot more kind of insecurities within people about their security within Europe. You know what is happening in the coming years. And whereas now, for example, you see a lot of topics related to financial anxiety and financial worries, etc. So these things, they really come back a lot towards kind of the struggles that people have and the worries that people carry with
mm,
themselves. So it doesn't always need to be, depression
mm,
or a disorder. It can just be things like, hey, financially it's getting a bit tough at the moment because of so many different factors.
mm,
And then you would just want to, speak to someone about it.
mm,
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see things coming back and being a bit more also accepted, of course, especially by the younger generations who sometimes even kind of almost have this expectation of an employer as well to be able to provide something for them,
mm.
and not only a job, but the support that comes around it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the past 5-6 years, anxiety levels have been high, let's say, for
Yeah,
various reasons, higher than they would have been in the past. There's more things to be concerned about, perhaps, and it's being handled well, in my opinion. Still, we still have a long way to go, but at the same time, I still think that a lot of things are moving in the right direction.
I have a lot of faith in our younger generation for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, hey, look, we're just right up on time, Lucas. Where can people find you?
Oof, LinkedIn, Lukas van Remmerden. Check out Fourtees. Say hi.
Perfect. I'll make sure that those are shared in the description of this episode. Lucas, thanks for being here, for coming on, mate. It's been a great pleasure speaking with you. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thanks a million. Guys, this
Thanks
has
for
been
having me.
another episode of Masters of Marketing. Tune in again next week for more great content. Thanks, Lucas.